Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. UPI reports that the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier and its strike group have entered the Caribbean Sea, a move announced by the U.S. Southern Command. This deployment occurs amid escalating tensions in a sustained pressure campaign by the Trump administration against Cuba. The Southern Command highlighted the strike group's combat prowess, readiness, and strategic advantage, noting the Nimitz is on its final operational mission before decommissioning. Concurrently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio expressed skepticism about diplomatic solutions with Cuba, citing the island's leadership and political system. The heightened military presence follows the Department of Justice's indictment of former Cuban President Raúl Castro on charges including conspiracy to murder U.S. citizens. The Cuban government vehemently denied the U.S. jurisdiction and deemed the indictment a despicable act of political provocation, while stating its willingness to discuss all issues with the U.S. but distrusting Washington's sincerity. According to the Epoch Times, Moscow was rocked by a massive drone attack involving hundreds of Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles. The drones, identified as BARS and FP-1 models, successfully penetrated Russia's most stringent air defenses and directly struck the Solnechno-Gorsk oil depot, igniting a large fire. This incident marks the official beginning of what is being termed the Battle of Moscow, with the Russian capital reportedly in a state of panic following the unprecedented aerial assault. The article, part of Military Intelligence Bureau series, suggests that Russian President Putin has been rendered helpless in the face of these coordinated strikes. According to a report from TechCrunch, SpaceX, the technology conglomerate founded by Elon Musk, has reportedly filed confidential disclosures with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission in preparation for an initial public offering. Anonymous sources cited by Bloomberg suggest SpaceX could aim for a valuation of $1.75 trillion. This potential mega-listing, internally codenamed Project Apex, is expected to raise an unprecedented $75 billion, significantly surpassing Saudi Aramco's $29 billion listing in 2019 to become the largest IPO in history. SpaceX, a leader in the global space industry, operates a fleet of reusable rockets, spacecraft, and the extensive Starlink satellite communications network. The company recently acquired Musk's xAI, valuing the combined entity at $1.25 trillion and incorporating the generative AI lab and X, formerly Twitter. While Musk previously stated that SpaceX would not go public until it reached Mars, the substantial demand for capital, now redirected towards lunar ambitions, has evidently altered this strategy. The company requires billions to fund its Starship development, spectrum acquisition, Starlink satellite replenishment, and the immense computing power needed for xAI's advanced deep learning models. The U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday delivered an 8-1 ruling in favor of Havana docks against 4 major cruise lines, reinstating a $440 million judgment. The cruise lines, including Carnival, MSC, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian, operated cruises to Havana from 2016 to 2019, allegedly using the Port of Havana docks illegally. The complaint stated that these companies violated the Helms-Burton Act of 1996, which allows Americans to seek damages for trafficking in property seized by Fidel Castro's regime in the 1959 Cuban Revolution. Justice Clarence Thomas, writing for the majority, emphasized that the act makes those who use tainted property liable to U.S. nationals with a claim to it. While the decision allows the litigation to continue in lower courts, Justice Elena Kagan dissented, arguing that Havana Docks' time-limited property interest had expired in 2004. This ruling follows a recent U.S. State Department formal charge against former Cuban President Raúl Castro related to a 1996 incident that prompted the Helms-Burton Act. Travel restrictions to Cuba, relaxed under President Obama, were tightened again in 2019 by the Trump administration, which, also redesignated Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism in 2021, UPI reports. Global news reports that North American stock markets started Thursday lower, driven by rising oil prices and a renewed climb in Treasury yields. The ongoing stalemate between Iran and the U.S. is a significant factor. The 30-year Treasury bonds yield touched near 2007 levels, just before the global financial crisis, reflecting concerns about geopolitical and fiscal risk. High yields are known to slow economies, curb company borrowing for projects like artificial intelligence data centers, and depress prices for various investments, including stocks and cryptocurrencies. The S&P 500, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and NASDAQ each saw retreats of approximately 0.5%, while the Toronto Stock Exchange also declined. Walmart shares dropped over 6% due to a weaker outlook, despite strong sales, with inflation and the Iran war cited as contributing factors. Nvidia, however, saw fluctuating modest gains after exceeding Wall Street's quarterly expectations. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.